Uh, this is really a general question. I've come up with it in several different ways, and that is, 4 years from now, what will you have accomplished? What will be the single major accomplishment of your term that should cause us to vote for you again 4 years hence?
Well, I don't know if you'll vote for me again, but I can guarantee you I am going to attack health care costs with a vengeance. I believe it's 16% of the gross domestic product. I've gone in as Attorney General and used what limited power I've got, authority, to go in and audit these nonprofits, the top 3 HMOs, the top 2 hospital systems, and I found lavish waste and fraud throughout, not fraud, but lavish waste throughout that system. I would like to be governor and use the Commerce Department, the Health Department, and the Department of Human Services and go after that in a big way. I want to go to the legislature and make change, change the governing structure on these institutions because they're frankly unaccountable. They're not accountable to policyholders, they're not accountable, frankly, they're not accountable to the government the way we're currently regulating it. It needs change. Second, when I end that term, not one kid in Minnesota is going to be able to use money as an excuse for not going to college. I want them all in there. We're going to do it.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Our plans are pretty clear, and just so you know, if you went to our website, which is teammn, like teamminnesota.com, you can read them all. We're staking out some pretty tough territory here. We say that we ought to either be at or be making discernible, measurable, hardcore progress at driving healthcare costs down 20%, quality up, and getting everybody insured. Driving the need for remedial courses for our high school graduates while eliminating them. And seeing to it that every at-risk child has early childhood, and we have all-day, everyday kindergarten for every kid. Getting rid of the potholes, getting our highways back in shape, and having a specific, reliable source of funding for transit, and reversing the pollution that's going into our waters. Actually funding and implementing the Clean Water Legacy Act and putting a dedicated fund in place to assure that we recapture wildlife habitat, that we reestablish our wetlands, and we reduce the pollution in our waters. Those are things on which we're prepared to be accountable. And it ought to be the basis on which I hope the voters would decide 4 years hence about whether or not we get the right to continue. Because I believe if we're on the trail to those 4 things, it'll be worth continuing. And I'm not naive enough to think you can do it in one term. But I'm bold enough to think you can make one heck of a good start in one term, which would justify getting the job done in the second.
Mr. Paletti.
Well, I think the question was what one thing would you single out as perhaps your proudest accomplishment 4 years from now. For me, that would probably be making sure that we improve and reform our education system on a variety of levels. First of all, we want to increase funding, as I mentioned before, but in each stop, in early childhood, we want to make sure, for example, that we have programs that have standards for accountability, for outcomes, and are measuring progress towards goals. And if the goal is to be ready for kindergarten, then if we're going to put a bunch of money into daycare and ECFE and Head Start and Way to Grow, we want to make sure that there's some basic curriculum in place to make sure that that's happening, and we're measuring that. In K-12 education, like I said before, it's a 1940 system. It served us well, but it needs to be modernized. It needs to be improved. So completing the pivot from seniority pay to performance pay, measuring and demanding that at least 70% of the money get into the classroom is very important. Overhauling the high school experience, like I mentioned earlier, is very important. And having a higher education system, as you saw in the newspaper today, that also is moving towards accountability measures and strategic improvement would be very important. So those are things. That one thing would be education reform and improvement, but since I have 20 seconds left, we also want to make sure that we grow jobs, live within our means. It's not true to say we didn't hold the line in government. When I became governor, it was supposed to go up, budget was supposed to go up about double digits, 12% or so. We held it down to 6% the first biennium, and now it's back up a bit, but that's because we had some additional money. But you got to live within your means, just like families. We have to reduce healthcare costs, and we've made good progress on that, and more to come on future questions.